Hey everyone, it's Chris with RagingGazebo.com, and today we're experiencing the tragic history of Edith Finch and her long line of family members in the narrative adventure, What Remains of Edith Finch. Every once in a while, an interactive experience comes along and completely knocks the player on their rear. Whether it's due to stellar gameplay, impossible challenges to overcome, or a gripping narrative so enthralling, even the thought of stopping the experience, even briefly, feels taboo. What Remains of Edith Finch takes a purely captivating setting and swirls it into a narrative that's so moving that it will leave you wanting more. But does the rather short adventure make up for its quick experience with clever mechanics and surprise twists nearly around every corner within the Finch home? We think so. The player starts off on their way towards the massive, patched-together mansion that belongs to the historically demised family, the Finches. You take on the role of Edith, the last remaining member of the tragedy-struck family, and your purpose is to finally learn the truth about your unfortunate fate. The game guides the player along a pathway towards discovery as the narration of Edith's thoughtful words stream across the screen in ever so creative ways. An incredibly thought-filled adventure awaits the player and Edith as they work their way through the now abandoned house in hopes of experiencing each relative's death in a unique and often exhilarating journey. Each scenario that Edith experiences is vastly different from one another. One may guide players through a simple flipbook story, while another has players controlling the character through comic book scenes. Every scene mimics the personality of each relative, and is often greatly exaggerated to allow for a much more imaginative experience through a steady-paced narrative. The control scheme to Edith Finch is part of what makes the adventure so approachable. Players only need to concern themselves with a couple of buttons, which merely interacts with key objects or performs a specific ability depending on the relative's scenario. It's so incredibly simple to follow that part of the magic is the immersion created through the experience in words alone, and the lack of in-depth control mapping only strengthens this argument. Rarely does a game impact the player with so little interaction or player control like What Remains of Edith Finch, that it's so refreshing to experience, even if for a short while. So many titles today demand countless hours in devotion, mastering control schemes, and memorizing enemy tactics, that flowing through an experience as grim as Edith Finch's story can be a truly relaxing endeavor. If looking for a quick pick-up and play title that strikes an emotional chord like very few other interactive experiences, What Remains of Edith Finch follows that suit perfectly. With its simplistic yet engaging gameplay moments offering unique methods of interaction throughout the course of the story, players will easily find themselves wrapped up in the game's excruciating story of a teenage girl and the tragedy of being the last remaining member in a family brimming with a devastating history of mortality. While easily experienced in one short sit-down with the game, the experience on its own will leave you breathless, ever so ardently wanting more. Once again, I'm Chris with RagingGazebo.com, and we hope you've enjoyed our look at What Remains of Edith Finch.